What's good? It's your boy YK The Truth, Boxing TV. Now, Devin Haney Lawyer cooks Ryan Garcia's legal team. Cook him. Now, I want to see how many of you boxing channels that claim
that you're unbiased,
but yet all we see is Ryan Garcia's legal team statements. We don't hear nothing about Devin Haney, right? So let's see if you guys have any integrity to share this. Now let's get to the video. Let's get to the video. Now, this is to Matthew Deliglio, Acting Director, New York State Athletic Commission. All right, so this is to the Athletic Commission regarding Haney versus Garcia bout in Garcia's positive drug test. Mr. Delaglio, Dr. Septi, and Ms. McEachin. As you recall, on May 11th, 2024, I wrote to the commission through you entering an appearance and setting forth Mr. Haney's position. For your convenience, I am annexing a copy as Exhibit 1. Over the past few days, there have been a flurry of what we consider to be orchestrated releases from Mr. Garcia and his legal team. It is completely obvious infusions are genuinely prohibited in sports because they are masking agents. This is common knowledge. And for instance, this is how Lance Armstrong, as an example, avoided detection for so long. So who's to say Ryan Garcia hasn't been doing this for a long time, but he just got caught? As we noted earlier in this letter, the use of IVs has numerous implications. First, Garcia cannot argue that he was unaware that he was using a prohibited method. He could not be oblivious to the needle sticking out his arm. The fact that he was only caught with Osterin in his system in the last 2 tests, or ostensibly small amounts, is explained by the use of IVs as a masking technique. So he was basically masking the Osterin with the weed and the IVs and everything. But yet Ryan Garcia's fans, this is not going to stop Ryan Garcia's fans from regurgitating that billionth of a gram that they love, parroting. Art, Polly want a cracker. Art. Sound like some parrots. Billionth of a gram. He's masking. All right. Please note, in all of the public statements by the Garcia team, no explanation is given for the use of IVs. And there is no claim that he had a medical exemption to use them. Secondly, and another reason for the prohibition in boxing is the IVs are used as a rehydration method. Please recall that Garcia missed weight after representation by his team that he was making weight. While Mr. Haney was aware of this fact, he was not aware that Garcia was rehydrating using a prohibited method. So this is why Devin was complaining about the weight. It was more so of him rehydrating to make that weight using an IV. This only became known when we saw the collection report. It is important to understand how those reports are handled. The collection reports never see the light of day unless there is a positive. All right? They are seeking to minimize his culpability in a misleading and troubling way. I would like to first point to you the disclosures made by Mr. Garcia to the sample collectors. All right? In our initial submission, we referenced a video of Ryan Garcia taking an IV containing yellowish fluid. The collection forms signed by Mr. Garcia on April 19th, Exhibit 2, and April 20th, Exhibit 3, reflect that he was using continuing IV infusions through those dates. Of course, the Haney Garcia bout was on April 20th. So the reason why Ryan was as big as he was and, you know, as powerful as he was is because he was using IVs and he was on PEDs, man. The proof is in the pudding. So anybody that's capping for Ryan Garcia, either you're paid to do it, you're on his payroll, or you just have no integrity. Because the evidence is there. I mean, the evidence speaks for itself. He had a positive B sample, positive A, positive B, so the aspirin was in his system. But at first, it was Victor Conti who made his urine dirty. This was the first excuse. This was the Illuminati. But none of that was spoken about by Ryan Garcia's legal team because it was bullshit. All right? His tremendous and multifaceted implications. Different accounts. First, infusions are prohibited by the NYSAC regulation, by VADA regulations, and by WADA regulations, and WBC regulations. A video of Mr. Garcia receiving an IV of a fluid with a yellowish tinge may be found, and it states the YouTube you can go to. Minute 229 through 337. This is in addition to the disclosures on the collections forms. So they got the evidence that you was using IVs illegally. The commission drug prohibitions include the following language. The following are prohibited: a tampering or attempting to tamper to alter the integrity and validity of sample collected. Included but not limited to sample substitution and or adulteration, additions of the proteins to the sample B, intravenous infusions or injections except for those approved in advance by the commission. VADA prohibits include the following language prohibited: intravenous infusions and injections of more than a total of 100 ml per 12-hour period, except for those legitimately received in the course of hospital treatment, surgical procedures, and clinical diagnostic investigations. WADA prohibits include the following: intravenous infusions and or injections of more than a total of 100 milliliters per 12-hour period, except for those legitimately received in the course of hospital treatments, surgical procedures, and or clinical diagnostic investigations. The WBC incorporates the VADA prohibitions by reference and provides a link to the prohibited substances and manipulations. Right? Had no way of knowing the IVs, and they would have been undetected but for the positive result, at which time they were disclosed to the commission. Now listen, this is when it gets deep. We have read that Mr. Garcia's legal representatives have sent open samples of certain supplements to SMARTL for testing. Based upon what we read, for anyone knowledgeable about the drug testing process, this is very clearly an attempt to confuse matters. First, sent long after the bout, the samples were in open containers. If open containers were ever submitted to bolster a case for doping against an athlete Any result would be completely inadmissible, and counsel for Garcia would be the first to argue this. Why is that so? Because there are a number of ways an open sample could have been contaminated. For example, aspirin is a powder. The substances were powders. Who is to say that a spoon used to scoop out aspirin was not also used to scoop out the substances sent for testing? We use this as an example, but there's a more nefarious possibility. Who is to say that the samples were not intentionally contaminated? This is why open bottles alone are meaningless. Finally, in this regard, we are informed that there is no chain of custody. Chain of custody in legal context is the chronological documentation or paper trail that records the sequence of custody, control, transfer, analysis, and disposition of materials, including physical or electronic evidence. Of particular importance in criminal cases, the concept is also applied in civil litigations and more broadly in drug testing of athletes. Absence of valid chain of custody, results emanating from the samples would never be considered in drug testing context. My understanding is that there was no chain of custody. I also read that approximately a month after the PD failure and at least 6 weeks after the bout hair samples were submitted to some purported expert, I am submitting an exhibit 4, an article from a scientific journal reflecting the limitations of hair testing. The bottom line is that there are methods of eliminating drug traces from hair, and that hair sampling is never permitted. So basically, hair sampling cannot override urine and blood, as we have been saying all along. But wait, it gets even better. Advanced botanical consultant in testing. So this is the NutraBio, and this is the lot number. And these things were tested. And guess what? There's no aspirin in those supplements. You can actually look up the lot number. And they said that there were no aspirin contamination. So Ryan is done. This is why he's been quiet on Twitter. He's not saying a lot on Twitter. You know, you see you guys get on here and you say you do your due diligence and you say you researching, but all you doing is just making a fool out of yourselves. But like you said, it's business, right? It's business. So clearly you are on Ryan's payroll because Ryan is guilty and he's going down, bro. Because when you tell one lie, you got to tell a lot of more lies. So with that being said, it's your boy YK The Truth, Boxing TV, and I'm out. Look, if you want to support my channel, thumbs up the video, share the video, hit the notification bell. I'm out. Peace.